All right. Well, welcome back, everyone. Give Steve a second here. Join us.
Hey, Kevin.
Hey, well, thanks for coming back. I think one of the things that I really miss the most about doing this, virtual session, are the ability to have kind of a follow up discussions. Kind of the water cooler chat about, what about this, topic or what about that. So I think we certainly could have had lots of offline conversations around the roadmap presentation we had yesterday, but we're back here to answer a few questions. And just for anyone else, if you had any questions about the product roadmap that Steve and I did yesterday, uh, the historian discussion today, the version 7 practical uses today, go ahead and put those in the chat now too. We'll take any other questions that you have in addition to the ones that we carried over from yesterday. So as you think of anything else, please let us know. Just kind of circling back to some of the questions from yesterday, Steve, kind of just taking it from the top. Uh, there's like several questions around kind of the new browser-based HTML5 capability with Park Mobile. Some of the questions were around kind of what we currently support from a browser perspective. So maybe just give a little background on kind of what Park Mobile's always supported from the 5.x branch going forward from a browser standpoint, and we'll take some of the other questions.
Yeah, so in the 5.6 version, it supported every browser, including Internet Explorer. Starting in 7.0, it went full HTML5, so it's really more modern browsers or any modern browser, Chrome, both versions of Edge, the pre-Chromium and now the new Chromium-based one, Safari, Firefox, both on mobile devices, so your phone, tablets, as well as desktop environments.
Yeah. So certainly the new Edge would be supported in 7.1 as well as 7.0.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. And then there's some questions around, an app versus a browser-based application. And currently, it's a browser-based application, and that's what we have today.
Yeah, that's going to be our focus for the short term, at least. We looked a little bit at doing native applications, but that's a lot more work since you have to develop an app for both Android and iOS. And I know, at least on iPhone, with web-based applications, you can pin them to your start or your homepage on your phone and launch them just like an application. So we kind of bridge that gap a lot with that functionality.
Right. So I have the similar experience, and with the browser-based version, just a lot easier to deploy for the customers too. So some of the other questions that came in, one of them was around, being able to save the smart mouse pin. So if we think back to yesterday, where we had the example of the smart mouse, and now we can shift, click, and pin those. Can we save those pins?
Not yet. We've discussed that. The tricky thing there is how long do you save them for, since we'd have to either put them in the database or in the display file, and that could add up over time. So if people have use cases for that, we'd be open to talking to you about what we could do if that's something you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, they're transient, but kind of understanding the use case would help us, figure out the right solution. It's not going to overwhelm the database, but make practical sense. One of the questions was around a remote tag. I think it was in the context of in Asset Manager, we can now support remote tags versus just tags native to that database. So you can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think a couple of people touched that during the day around the corporate deployment. So when we're talking about a remote tag, it's anything that's not directly in whatever database you connected to, the CDC config database. So in 5.6, the client directly connected to the database. In 7.0, it's all routed through the UA server. So if you have multiple CDC config databases linked either through the UA server or just directly through the clients, anything that's not in the initial server you logged into is considered a remote tag. So it requires accessing a separate server than the one you initially connected to read.
Okay, good. Then we had a couple of questions around kind of the asset management capabilities with our asset model. So we didn't touch upon that too much during our presentation, but Aaron touched upon it a little bit during the practical uses. And there'll be a training session next week specifically around how to build Asset Manager. What are some of the tips and tricks there? So is there anything else you wanted to add there, Steve? But I think it's one of those, the more we can understand the use case and the question, we can talk more specifically to
I
it.
don't think we had anything specific on the asset management coming yesterday, but hopefully between today and next week, everyone's questions on that will be answered.
Yeah, I think to us, Asset Manager is one of kind of the fundamental toolkits that we now have as part of Data Park. So if you look at our roadmap, the SDK will be able to leverage the Asset Manager. Some of the other features that we have under analytics will be able to leverage the Asset Manager. It's not a theme into itself. It's certainly a supporting foundation for a number of use cases in the different themes. So, several of the features that we talked about will leverage Asset Manager depending upon what's needed. And then around integration with specifically now Pi's asset framework, which is sort of their version of asset modeling. We highlight some more of those features that came out. I think Aaron touched upon a little bit.
Yeah, I think Aaron touched about that. So we are in 7.0 able to sit on top of the Pi AF framework and pull in nodes from it or data from it. I know the question came up about doing full import actual models. That's something that, we could potentially do with our bulk import utility or have additional functionality there. But right now we're just sitting on top of it and reading data out of it.
Yeah.
So you have the choice to use PyAF or our own asset model that's entirely built into our system.
Okay, and to those in the audience, if there's any specific use cases that you had in mind, please get in touch with your main point of contact around that PyAF integration. We want to make sure we're solving your problems, and so the more we can hear about what's important to you, then we can build those in. So the next question, Steve, was around, you mentioned in 7.2, we'll now have the kind of the full support around master tags. So the question was, do we have to, if we're in the 5.x branch, do we have to wait until 7.2 to upgrade?
Right. And yesterday I mentioned the data entry master tags are still fully supported in all the 7.0 versions. There's really tags that were created using the old master tag editor. It was a separate window. And tags that were created in 5.6 and then upgraded in 7.0 will continue to work in 7.0. It's just we're missing the configuration screen. And the current work around that would be to run the 5.6 client just to edit the existing master tags. So, and then 7.2 will have it as its own tool that will possibly bring back into the earlier versions as well.
Yeah, and there's certainly, I think, several aspects that utilize the master tag structure, and some of it, as you mentioned, around limits and some of the management, we can do with some workaround. Some of it we actually can do with the Asset Manager if it's just around trends and graphics. So I'd encourage you to talk to your point of contact again, and what are the specific use cases that you're using in 5.6 or 5.5, and we talked more specifically about what's going to work really well in 7.0 or 7.1, and then kind of what workarounds we can do to make sure it continues to work. And the last one was around cloud infrastructure support. So it was just kind of left there. What are your thoughts around improved cloud infrastructure support or handling that?
Broad spectrum. Right now, we do have several customers running Data Park in the cloud. In that case, it's in full virtual machine. So just like you'd have your on-site Windows server with all of our applications server, same thing, but running it on a virtual machine in the cloud. I did touch a bit on in the Historian presentation. We're looking into building out Docker containers for the new Historian, at least. since it's all .NET Core and can run in Linux, that would be a good candidate for us to leverage containers for those applications, or for that application, and eventually our other server apps as we migrate them from .NET Framework towards .NET Core. There are Windows containers out there that we could potentially use, but I know Linux ones are a lot lighter weight, or Linux is a lot lighter weight than Windows in the current container world.
And we certainly have customers today using public cloud platforms to host Data Park. So there are ways that we can run Data Park in the cloud today, and some things that you're talking about that maybe be a little easier in the future.
Yeah, so we'll definitely continue down that road as time goes on.
So it's a couple more questions that I had here, Steve. So around Windows Server and SQL Server support, where do you see that with 7.1 and 7.2?
Yeah, I think we still support all the way back to 2008 R2 for both Windows Server and SQL Server. Although I don't know if those are still in active support for Microsoft. Our goal right now is to whatever Microsoft is actively supporting on their operating system, the SQL Server versions is what we're going to try to support, and we'll make it clear if anything comes up that deviates from that.
Sounds good. I think that was, let's see if there's any more in the chat. Yeah, so 2008 is ending soon. We kind of get pushed on both ends when it comes to Microsoft support. Some that are still on older versions, we want to make sure that we support it as long as Microsoft supports it, and then some a little more on the bleeding edge with the latest and greatest from Microsoft. So we do test as new versions are coming out from Microsoft, make sure we're compatible and share that information too with our customers. What's the best way for the customers to learn that, Steve?
I know we've got we have the software recommendations or minimum requirements that we'll update with each version. We do the compatibility testing on several different versions as well. So yeah, if you've got a specific scenario, you've got questions about, ask our support group. I can let you know.
All right. Well, I think this is the conclusion of our additional Q&A. Certainly, if anybody has anything that came up during this, get in touch with whoever your primary point of contact is. We would love to dive into any specific use cases, any additional questions. As I mentioned, kind of that ability to chat offline and talk about some of your problems, I think is the biggest thing we miss from this. So please let us know. I'd like to hear from you. So I think at this point, I'm going to bring Jacob back, and he's going to close us out. Really appreciate everybody joining us here, and let's just hang on here for one more second.
All righty, give me 1 second to get situated here. Well, thank you, Kevin and Steve, for that wonderful QA session we just had. I hope we had some good takeaways from that. But really quick, we were able to gather the results of the trivia. So I'd like to read some of the winners here before we close for the rest of the day. And so our trivia winners, our Wednesday question was, in Harry Potter, who was the Half-Blood Prince? The answer, obviously, Severus Snape. We had Zach Rothenberg and Western Sugar Cooperative win that one. So congratulations. And then for our first question of today was, when under high pressure and compression, actually it was... when under high temperatures and compression, which material turns into marble? Or, it was, what creates marble? And the answer to that one is limestone. So Rick Gilbert and Rainier Advanced Materials, congratulations on your win of that question. And our final question for our trivia was, again, which European capital is built across 14 islands? And I actually didn't know this one, but it's Stockholm, Sweden. So Charlene Lafferty and Irving Consumer Products, congratulations. Thank you so much for participating. We loved the interaction. And so, look forward to finding your $50 gift card and hopefully some swag in the mail. So I hope everyone really had a great time today. And, unfortunately, that really kind of wraps up day 2 for our conference here. So, I think we had a chance to really show you what we've been working on for the past 18 months. So some really great features we're going to be adding, and really excited to get that stuff out to the market. But before we go, I just wanted to give a big thank you to all of our presenters, as well as all of the audience, all of you for participating in our questions and really making this conference something special. But unfortunately for today, that's going to be all. So, but not the end of the conference. So don't go anywhere. I mean, you can leave for today, but we're not done as a whole. We'd love to see you back here next week on Wednesday, September 30th and Thursday, October 1st. So until then, we wish you safe travels from your browser back to your kitchen or wherever you're working. And thank you again and have a wonderful day.